Without weapons, Helldivers isn't, well, Helldivers. And to that end, there's an interesting suggestion incoming on how Arrowhead could really take their designs and kick them into overdrive. The question is, would it work? Remember to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to support the channel as we take a look at the latest with Helldivers. First things first, we've got some new swag inside the game that just dropped, available to everyone for free. To commemorate our victory on the Bugs homeworld of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, the Against the Tyrant Cloud commemorative cape just arrived, and the in-game lore text reads, "No oppressive murk, no fascist penumbra, no dictatorial haze, and no unfree emanation. No tyrannical gloom shall ever stand a chance against the searing light of Helldiver fire." And overall, I think this thing looks pretty damn good. And just like previous capes like Fallen Heroes Vengeance, which we got for Malevelon Creek, or the Pillars of Freedom, which we earned for the Sony review bomb, these capes really mean something, especially for those of us that were there. Speaking of being there, it looks like a bunch of us divers have essentially checked out, at least when it comes to the current major order, as Planet K is still only about 2/3 liberated with less than 18 hours to go. And even if we somehow pulled it out in the next few hours, which, let's be honest, is never going to happen, we'd still have a full liberation needed on Planet Mox as well. That said, I feel like there needs to be an extensive overhaul made to the Galactic Modifier, which I touched on in this past video talking about the Galactic War and if it was rigged. But if we've got more than half the online divers all hitting one planet, the progress there needs to reflect that fact. And between regen rates, jacked up planet health pools, and enemy reinforcements that can be instantly flown in, it gets a little predictable. Know what I'm saying? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for freebies and easy dubs, just a system that rewards us in a predictable manner. Now, I don't know if everyone remembers this, but back in early October, Arrowhead ran a poll in their Discord asking members to vote on what they wanted to see next from a development blog, and at the time, we had voted overwhelmingly to get some info on the game engine, which never happened, outside of a tech blog about the install size for the game. And come to think of it, we haven't seen another poll asking us what we wanted to hear about from the studio. But the second and third place vote getters here on that poll were gameplay and design. And when you combine the two and you start to get a little more specific with the topic, it can be focused in on weapons. Of course, weapons are everything in Helldivers. We bring two with us from the Super Destroyer. We have an arsenal of weapons that we can call down, ranging from ballistics to melee. And without weapons, there's essentially no Helldivers. There's Discord channels devoted to this singular topic. Reddit is filled with requests ranging from reworks to requests, discussions, and even comedic, but without a doubt, weapons are a big effing deal in Helldivers, and it's an area of the game that is hotly debated and also a facet of the design process that Arrowhead doesn't always nail. But according to FandomWire, Arrowhead has a highly knowledgeable resource available to them should they want to take advantage of it. Quote, "This massively popular Helldivers superfan is exactly the weapon expert Arrowhead needs for future Warbonds," with a further subheadline down here that reads, "A trusted firearms curator and fan favorite may be the smartest choice Arrowhead could make for future Helldivers 2 weapon design." Jonathan Ferguson has become the internet's favorite gun guy for one simple reason. He actually knows what he's talking about while still understanding why games like Helldivers 2 break reality for fun. As the keeper of firearms and artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in Leeds, he oversees one of the most extensive historic weapons collections in the world. In a space crowded with loud opinions and surface-level analysis, Ferguson brings actual expertise, matched with a genuine appreciation for how games use firearms as storytelling tools. His full title is so frequently recited that it's become a community in joke. And then they've got a slide here that says Jonathan Ferguson, the keeper of firearms and artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. You'll hear it repeated like a meme, especially when he's reacting to the breaker shotgun melting through waves of Terminids. It's a perfect contrast, an academic curator deep diving into the absurd sci-fi carnage, but there's real value in it too, and Arrowhead would be wise to recognize that. Ferguson has analyzed Helldivers 2 across 6 different videos so far. He featured it in 4 separate episodes with GameSpot during 2024, then followed up with 2 more on his independent EXP channel in 2025. His most recent breakdown from September focused on the Halo ODST crossover weapons and more. Back when he analyzed the Liberator assault rifle, he didn't just explain what real-life gun it resembles. He talked about why its mediocre stats still feel satisfying to use, how the reload animation communicates reliability, and why players trust it even when better options exist. That's the kind of thinking Arrowhead needs when designing new Warbond weapons that players will actually use. Okay, I had to go check on Helldive.Live to get an actual idea of Liberator pick rates spread across all 3 factions, and just so you can see them here, for example, for the bugs, the lib is sitting at just 2.9% of the time, so it's picked less than 3% of dives. For the bots, it's slightly lower at 2.8%, and wait for it, for the Illuminate, it does improve up to 4.8%. So yeah, I do agree that the Liberator is pretty mediocre across the board, and there are much more reliable and heavier hitting primaries in the game, but I wanted to say there's a difference between a weapon's design and trusting the weapon and actually enjoying the weapon, which is a topic that we're going to touch on in just a moment. But anyways, let's continue on with the article. They continue on by saying, more importantly, Ferguson understands what Helldivers 2 is really about. Its weapons don't need to follow real-world rules because the game's premise thrives on exaggerated militarism and tongue-in-cheek propaganda. He summed it up cleanly with one line. Here's what they said. It makes more sense than something like Halo, where you're the most elite soldier possible and you're still using this kind of technology. If you're more of an expendable grunt and this kind of thing is still being made, it's kind of plausible. That perspective matters. A typical military consultant might push for realism that completely misses the tone. I would argue the studio does as well. Ferguson already gets the tone, as has shown that he can speak to both sides of the design. Ferguson is not just a curator, he is also a creator with nearly 200,000 subscribers on his EXP YouTube channel. Fans regularly tune in to hear him break down weapons across all genres, official collaboration videos where he previews new Warbond gear and explains design intent would build trust while reducing confusion around balance changes. There is also untapped creative potential. The Royal Armouries Museum houses rare weapons that most developers will never see in person. Drawing inspiration from those could help Arrowhead create sci-fi gear that feels distinct without losing internal logic. Ferguson's commitment to the game is clear. He plays it regularly, he's covered it voluntarily, and brings both insight and genuine interest to every breakdown. That matters more than credentials alone. When designing weapons for a game this specific, you want someone who understands both the satire and the systems from a player's perspective, rather than as an outside observer. Okay, I'm going to drop links to everything down in the video description and pinned comments so you can check it out for yourselves. And right now, at this very moment, on initial feelings alone, I'd like you to drop a comment about what you're thinking about this FandomWire suggestion to bring Ferguson onto the staff at Arrowhead. Maybe you think it's a good idea, or maybe not, and I'd also like you to explain why, because I'm interested in reading your feedback on this matter. Now, as someone that is experienced with the game, I've got to say that this is an interesting concept, just one that I don't know how effective it will be. At least in my mind, there's a significant difference in the design of a weapon, how it looks, how it handles, and its mechanics versus how it is programmed to behave in the game. And specifically, I'm talking about things like DPS and, of course, armor penetration. Because of all the unpublished in-game systems like durable damage, status effect modifiers, and more, you can have a great handling weapon that feels great to shoot, but if it's not effective at doing what you want it to, i.e. kill enemy targets, it doesn't matter if Ferguson was consulted or not. But let's fantasize for a moment. If Ferguson could get involved, combining his love for Helldivers with his knowledge of weapons, and if, let me say that again, here's a really big one, if he could get them to raise the damage thresholds and abilities of our primaries up to, say, the level of the explosive weapons, then yeah, we'd be cooking. Light armor pen versus medium, explosive weapons disregarding durable values, and certain weapons applying status effects. I mean, it looks and sounds simple to us players out here and how we want to balance the game, but there always seems to be this internal studio shackle, holding back weapons from dealing too much damage, getting picked too often by the players, and the ever-present studio need for realism. Now, in terms of new weapons, curious and rare designs, and the rest of that facet of conceptualizing new and interesting additions to the game, yeah, I mean, this sounds like a marriage made in heaven. But as always, that's just my 2 cents. And here's where you get to drop a comment. Weapons, designs, power levels, and realism, any and all of that is fair game for today. So don't be shy. Leave a comment, and let's see where the community is landing on this topic. Remember to hit subscribe and to ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. Thanks goes out to all of our current channel members and your continued support. And by the way, if you're interested in becoming a member, just check my homepage for the join button, where we have tiers and perks for all levels. Until the next one, this is 𝗲𝗲𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗂𝗋, signing off.